Yo guys, what's going on? It's Speddey. Today I'm going to be going over some of the big changes that are going to be coming with the Brimstone Sands update, which will be releasing in October. So if you enjoy videos like these, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I'd highly appreciate it. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to join my Discord. It will be linked in the description or comments down below. I will be happy to help. So firstly, let's talk about the new Heartgem Runes, or the Heart Runes, whatever you want to call them. At first I was a bit confused by these, but they work sort of like a brand new 4th ability, but that ability being a new ultimate ability. Instead of the usual, you use an ability and wait for it to cool down. The new Heart Runes are based off of a charged build-up, so you charge it while you're in combat, so taking damage and dealing damage. At the moment, there are only 5 types of these Heart Runes, so you have Stone Form, Detonate, Grasping Vines, Dark Ascent, and Cannon Blast. They all pretty much do as they say on the tin. So how to get your first Heart Rune? There are a few ways to get your first one, and one of them is to simply go up to a stone cutting table and you can craft your first at stone cutting level 1. If you want to go down the crafting route, you'll need 8,000 of that expedition's materia. And another is to kill the final boss in the dungeon on the route you want to go down. So if you want the stone form rune, you'll need to kill Chardis, although I don't think it is always a guaranteed drop. So for the second tier of Heart Rune, the materials you need to craft are all the same for all 5 of the different types. So you'll need the minor Heart Rune you already have, 25 rune stones, 5,000 umbral shards, and 5 corrupted lodestones. So you can stock up on these before the update drops by farming them or from buying them off the trading post before they get too expensive. And for the last tier, which is legendary tier, you will have 3 variations of the rune you can craft. So it's your choice which one you choose, but each one you choose will have a different perk attached to it. And depending on which one you choose, you will need the different materials for each one. But essentially, over time, you can own every single variation of all of the Heart Runes. So you will own 15 in total, sort of like a completionist, if that makes sense. And then another big change we have coming are the new Runeglass Gems, which are basically tier 6 gems, so an upgraded one with better perks attached to it. And these are tradable, so you don't have to craft them yourself if you don't want to, but I can imagine they are going to be very expensive, as there are some really good gems to choose from, given more variety to classes and playstyles. For example, there's the Runeglass of Ignited Opal, which is 12% damage when stamina isn't full, and inflicts a burn, dealing 8% fire damage per second for 2 seconds. There are some other really good gems to use for your weapons, like leeching and energizing, but also with these new gems, by the way it's worded, using these new gems on your gear will give you more of a buff. For example, for the diamond, the Runeglass of Punishing Diamond will give you a 1.5% physical and 0.5% elemental damage absorption, and your melee attacks will deal an additional 2% damage. So let's say you're a bruiser or a melee player. If you have this gem on all of your gear, including your jewelry, you will have an extra 16% melee damage, as well as your 12% damage when your stamina isn't full if you're using the opal in your weapons, as well as all of your other buffs. So damage is going to be insane. And now onto the Greatsword, which is the new melee weapon that is going to be releasing with Brimstone Sands. And from what I've tested it so far on the PTR, it does feel like quite a fun weapon, and it's very interesting. If we go to the weapon mastery tree, you will see these 2 new kind of icons on both sides of the skill tree. So if we go to the Defiance side, after using any ability in the Defiance tree, enter Defiance stance for 10 seconds. And this will give you the following properties. So your damage taken is reduced by 15%. Outgoing damage is also reduced by 15%, so you'll deal less damage. And then you'll also have guard point, block incoming attacks while charging heavy attacks. So when you're doing a heavy attack, you won't take any damage at all. And now onto the onslaught side. So you will have the following properties when you go into Path of Onslaught. Outgoing damage increased by 15%, so you'll deal more damage. But you'll also have damage taken increased by 15%. So if you're a light player using the Greatsword, you're going to have to watch out for that as well. You'll also have quick charge, so heavy attacks charge twice as fast, but consume 10 stamina each. So again, if you're in light or medium and you are dodging around quite a lot, especially if you're in PvP playing on point or in an outpost rush, you're going to have to watch out for your heavy attacks and watch your stamina, as it will deplete quicker. And this is where different Greatsword builds and the stance switching becomes very interesting. As you can see, I have 2 onslaught abilities selected and 1 defiance ability. And if I was to use an onslaught ability, I'm now in onslaught stance. And if I wanted to change stance during combat, and go a bit more defensive, I can use Defiant Stance, and now I have the passives that come with it. So if I use a heavy attack, as you can see, it took away my stamina and not my health as I was getting hit, because that is one of the passives that come with being in that stance. And now back to Onslaught during combat. Now I can change back to Defiant Stance again if I wanted to go a bit more defensive, if I was in PvP playing on point or being a tank. So now I'll quickly go over each of the new abilities that comes with the new Greatsword, and we'll start off with the Onslaught side of the skill tree. So firstly we have Relentless Rush, dash through foes while spinning and apply a 20% slow on hit for 4 seconds. First hit will deal 110% weapon damage and second hit will deal 120% weapon damage, and you'll enter Onslaught stance when this ability ends. And then we have Cross Cut. Slash 3 times in a quick sequence. First hit will deal 110% weapon damage, second hit 130% weapon damage, and third hit 160% weapon damage, and after you enter Onslaught stance. And then we have Skyward Slash. Swing up in a brutal arc, staggering your target, dealing 80% weapon damage and applying 2 stacks of 5% rend for 10 seconds, and then you enter Onslaught stance when you've finished. And now onto the Defiant side of the skill tree, and firstly we have Steadfast Strike. Stab your greatsword forward to impale your foes, then pull back to rip the blade out. Restores 20 stamina on each hit. First hit will deal 70% damage and stagger. Second hit will deal 120% weapon damage and pulls target 1.5 meters towards you. And the ability generates 150% threat in PvE, and after you will enter Defiant Stance. And then we have Calamity Counter. Block for 2 seconds while reducing the block stamina damage taken by 90%. Then unleash a counter attack that strikes all foes within a 4 meter radius. No block, you will deal 100% weapon damage. 1 block, you will deal 100% weapon damage and stagger. 2 blocks, you will deal 100% weapon damage and stagger longer. And 3 blocks will be 100% weapon damage and cause a knockback. And this ability has Grit. And obviously after you will enter Defiant Stance. And lastly we have Roaring Rupture. Stab the ground and send out a shockwave with a 4 meter radius that deals 120% weapon damage, and you gain 8% Fortify for 5 seconds for each foe hit, and the max is 3 stacks. This ability generates 200% threat in PvE and has Grit, and after you will also enter Defiance Stance. So I for one am excited when this eventually does release to live servers. I will be doing a ton of PvP build videos on the Greatsword, so if you're interested in that, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel or join my Discord to be notified when I upload. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Greatsword. Is it what you expected, and are you having fun testing it? Now we're going to have a look at the changes that are coming to Everfall and Monarchs Bluff. And here's some before and after shots of Everfall compared to the PTR right now. In my opinion, it does look and feel a lot more modern, especially with the outer stone walls and even the stone buildings. It does look a lot more like how a settlement should look. And onto Monarchs Bluff, they basically revamped Monarchs into a massive castle, especially as you first run in, you walk over a drawbridge. It definitely does feel a lot like a castle keep with the outer stone wall around the outside, and then the traders kind of doing their own thing in the middle. I won't really see myself in Monarchs much right now in game, but when this does drop to live servers, I'll be there a lot more. How do you feel about the upcoming changes look-wise to these settlements? So that would do it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I'd highly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have an amazing day.